humanoids, to another action-packed, exciting episode of the Two Left Feet, the unofficial Labour Party podcast. We hope that you've been well this week. I certainly have been in a situation where I am completely drained and tired, mostly because I have to continue watching Everton Football Club. And after this weekend, well, I know I will do again, but Christ on a bike. 5-0. 5-0! Still angry. Really angry. Anyway, humanoids, this week we are going to just have a little bit of a chat. Nothing formal this week. We're going to talk about everything that's been going on in terms of what the media are focusing on, which is everything, obviously. If you want to get in touch with us at any point regarding this episode or any other, and give us a comment and viewpoints, you can get in touch with us on email, labourpod@gmail.com. On Twitter or Facebook, we're at LabourPod. And search for us, Two Left Feet, on pretty much every podcasting platform now, apart from iTunes or iPodcast or Podcast iPlayer or whatever the stupid thing it is that's not letting us on it because of some stupidity in logging into accounts, and I can't do it. I mean, it's I probably could, but it's taken so many phone calls to the people in Apple that I've given up. I can't be arsed anymore. That it is a horrific platform to even try get a blooming podcast on. I've had enough of these blooming people and their ways and strangers and advancements and whatever they're called, the gurus, gurus, my backside. Apple, sort your together. Really. What a horrific... not even so angry. Just so angry! Especially after bloody Everton. Anywho, I will try and release my rage and volatility and condense it into sound bites for all the podcast listeners out there in podcast land. All of you humanoids out there. So if at any point that I do sound a little bit irate, I apologise now. It's not going to be one of those shit. And I'm tired and angry, and I'll apologise in advance. But there we are. Right. If you do manage to actually get through this podcast without going and feel angry towards me, and you do actually like the podcast and what we're doing here at the Two Left Feet, then give us a like, a share, a comment, and subscribe. The usual words that all social media whores say these days, including myself. I'm going to place myself in that group now. Like us, share us, comment on us. Go on, comment for us.
Engagement.
What?
Engagement.
What do you mean engagement?
It's called engagement.
What, listener engagement?
Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for learning it. Thank you for jumping ahead of your introduction as well.
I held on for a while.
Yeah, well, I'm just ranting. Anyway, so seeing as you've already said, I'll introduce you to the co-host of the most. He is your friendly local neighbourhood councillor, Cllr Jabez Oakes. So now you can say hello, Jay.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. In my occasional glance at the league table, I was surprised to see.
Don't you dare
say
say
it.
Don't you dare say it.
That's okay. People who listen, who know, will know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, seeing as you're such a devout Leeds fan...
I'm not a devout Leeds fan.
It's
only on goal difference, isn't it, at the moment?
What do you mean, at the moment it's finished?
Oh, is it done?
The season's finished.
Hopefully that emphasises for everyone how little I give a shit about the situation. But
yes, yeah. You finished 9th and we finished 10th. How the hell we finished 10th with 59 points, I will never know. It is one of the highest points tallies to come that low in the table.
Oh dear.
I think I got something that Coventry did something similar 20, 30 years ago. But never as a team in the Premier League almost had nearly 60 points and finished 10th. That's just so.
It's a bizarre.
bloody-
It's a bizarre year, though, isn't it? Where
Bizarre
the
year?
teams don't have the pressure of crowds and
Oh,
stuff. Is that, you know,
God.
and all that
I know this.
nonsense with the Super
I know
League
this
and-
isn't a football podcast. There's plenty of brilliant football podcasts out there by better people than. But I just if someone said if we put more effort and energy into politics that was we do in football, the world would be a far better and greater place. But you know what? Sometimes you just want a rival that you can say, "Ha, we beat you."
Yeah.
But most of the time these days they're saying that to me, and I don't like it.
It's like,
Really
it's like being a Labour member.
At the moment, yeah. There is do you know what? There's someone I know who is an Everton fan who's a horrendous Tory as well, but doesn't understand conservative politics. He literally, yeah, they're blues as well, so I vote for them,
Well,
and that's
what
it.
can
That's
you do
his.
in this day and age.
That's his whole ethos on. Yeah, they're the blue team, so I vote for them. Oh, for God's sake! I mean, yeah, a blue, yeah, whatever. So tell us what's the news in the world of Cllr Oakes? What's happened this week with you? Anything interesting?
I don't know what.
Well,
Politically or
well,
in
no,
my
just
life?
I've heard a rumor about your mechanical skills were put to the test this week.
Oh yeah, because my car broke down.
Yes, yeah.
And I didn't know
What the hell you were
to do
doing?
at
Yeah,
all. Yeah. That was
and
fun.
how did you feel about that?
Enraged.
Did you
Emasculated.
Oh, well, because you didn't know what to do.
Well, no, it's a car, isn't it? I don't need.
Imagine if you had like proper public transport that you could have not needed a car. But of course, here in the least served railway area in the United Kingdom,
Is that true? Fair enough.
Is it true? I'll say this. There is on mainland UK. They're divided by the counties. So in terms of counties, I think it's Rutland that has the least number of railway stations with one, as in council areas.
Yeah.
Denbighshire, which we're in, has two.
Prestatyn and Real.
Yes, at the extreme north end of the county, and by population. So if you divide the population by the number of railway stations, we're actually least served than Rutland. Wow. And most other counties across the United Kingdom have 3 or 4, more than. Yeah. But us in the south end of Denbighshire, we have nothing. No services whatsoever.
We've got a steam railway.
That's not a transport railway, though,
No,
is it?
Doesn't go anywhere.
That's an antique railway
It's
where
fun,
they go.
though.
Oh, it's brilliantly fun. Go to Llangollen and go on the vintage railway there, which is actually now it's been saved. Anyway, enough about choo-choo trains and all the rest of it. Even though I do know you like a good choo-choo train going up Snowdon, I think we should move on to actual politics stuff.
International politics?
International politics. Okay, you want to go there first?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll go international politics. I'll take your subject. I will take your subject, and I will give you Joe Biden with his corporation tax, which is I'm not too sure what it is. I think is it a minimum amount of corporation tax payable in any country that signs up to it, or pretty much any country.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because it's all the powerful countries, so
they want the G20 to do it first.
The whole of the G20.
And then it will filter down to the OECD countries.
Companies. Because they'll pretty much be forced if the G20 do it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So it's creating international pressure. And guess which cog has come undone?
I'm going to say America, because they're the ones that usually don't want this. And pretty much every administration has said no to it. And it's the last key of the puzzle to be able to get this done. Am I right?
No, America, Congress is hesitant about it, but it's actually our Parliament voted against it last night.
Our parliament. Well, hang on. I mean, this is we're recording the day before this actually goes out. So this comes out the Wednesday. So we're recording.
Monday.
Yeah, thanks for giving the game away. We're
Sorry.
actually. I mean, not to actually say to the listeners, actually, we're recording twice now because the recording we did yesterday didn't record.
Yes, dear listener, we don't actually record and edit and post everything on the same day.
No, so to give our business away. But yeah, so on Monday night, our great Westminster Parliament, who speak for us all, obviously, voted it down, and the amendments put together by the Labour Party as well, and voted those down, and we are now the last cog of the G20.
Pretty much, yeah.
Even though in the past we have stated that we were in favour of such moves, we are now not in favour of such moves.
Yes.
Why, Jay? Why could we possibly not be in favour?
Because we left the European Union, and now our entire economic model relies on becoming a tax haven. Is my speculation.
Like
Ireland.
Ireland isn't.
Ireland were quite against it, and they asked for the international agreed minimum to be lowered to match.
Did they?
Yeah, to match with their tax rate.
Oh, right, okay.
Because they rely on it hugely, as
Yeah.
we know. You know, many corporate headquarters for Europe are based in
Dublin,
Ireland. Yeah. And they set about basically saying it was going to be 21%. That's what Biden wanted to do, because that was the median rate across the world.
How much?
21%.
21?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that, that's,
because it's already, what is it, 19 here?
It's gone, it's 19 at the moment, might go up.
It's been fluctuating between 20, 21 and 19 for years now.
Yeah, so it's basically, that's where we're at. We're debating numbers, except for us, who basically said, we're not doing it.
Do you reckon this is the fallout from getting nil point in the Eurovision? You're complete.
I hope so.
Such a blank look came on your face then, like, what, Eurovision?
I know we got nil. I watched it.
You watched it?
Yes,
I didn't.
I love Eurovision.
I did. Anyway.
No trains in it, though, but there you go.
No trains, no choo-choo trains or anything like that. But, see, I didn't watch it because, one, I was working, and two, I knew what the result was going to be.
Yeah.
Basically, the UK having nil point again.
Italy won, though, which was interesting.
Some of the more politically savvy people I know predicted Italy and got Italy.
Oh, fair dues.
Yeah. And painted their faces in Italian colours and all sorts of things.
Oh, I know who you're on about.
Yeah.
He's got Italian
Italian
ancestry,
heritage, yeah. So, he, of course. But, so possible fallout of Eurovision is the UK saying, well, if that's not political, then bugger it, we'll...
I think it's. I agree. I don't agree with that. I was about to say I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. It sounds logical.
Yeah.
It sounds logical. But no, so we are now becoming a weird little tax haven island.
Well, it's part of our isolationist policies, which we now have to develop because we've left the trading bloc, and that's fine. That's what we agreed to do democratically.
Yeah,
probably one of the few nations in the world that have
gone the other way.
Agreed referendum-wise to depart from a global, move towards a global economy.
But he's getting Brexit done. This is it. This is getting Brexit done.
Yeah, and we will all be worse for it.
Well,
in terms of this policy,
are
alone,
you sure?
Yes.
Why?
Because
if everyone else signs up to it and they go ahead as the G19. Missing us out, then we become a tax haven. Therefore, all the corporations of the world will sign up to...
They'll base their headquarters here. It doesn't mean we'll get any more jobs
and they'll pay taxes here.
But not...
I mean, they'll only be paying 5%, but they'll be paying taxes here. Surely some taxes is better than no taxes. Won't this country benefit from such a move? Is this a savvy move?
Well, maybe not actually, because I think one of the reasons we may not have signed up to it was because some of our protectorates have lower tax rates.
Yes.
So we're actually protecting them and their economies.
All right.
So,
like the Isle of Man.
It becomes complicated because they're not technically part of the UK, but they are. The Ballywicks of Jersey and Guernsey, the Isle of Man. There's a few in the Caribbean
Channel,
as well.
Yeah, a few others.
Yeah, so that's where we're at, and that's a decision we've made.
But is it a savvy move for putting more money in the coffers, in the tax coffers?
I think the problem becomes, and this is becoming more and more of a problem, is it may be a savvy move economically for those who gain economically from our economy at the moment. I've used the word economy a lot there, but it's relevant. Is it going to benefit those who perhaps need some redistribution of wealth? Absolutely not. It's the same with Brexit as well. This may have long-term gains for our monetary economic policy. Absolutely. But
Thatcherism in action.
Well, yes, and the aim with Thatcherism is to force us all to pull us up by our bootstraps. I understand that, but we've had 10 years of this nonsense already.
10 years
of austerity. Yeah.
Oh yes,
which is Thatcherism in action, and then we've got Brexit, which is.
Well, the Brexit benefit is on its way, and I suppose this decision is part of the Brexit benefit.
Yep.
Yeah, but no, sorry, we can't say benefits to certain people because they're not on benefits. They don't take benefits at all, ever, never, because benefits are wrong.
Tax breaks are benefits too, guys.
Yeah, it all is. So, as a policy, do you think it's going to go through at some point? Because I don't think it's going to go through here. I think at some point maybe the G20 will go, okay, Britain, you're going through a period now. We'll come back to you.
Well, it's really tricky to know what's going on because in one instance we're doing these quite right wing moves to isolationism, but also we're nationalising the British Railway. So
that is so bizarre.
How do you play this in terms of traditional political ideologies?
Do you know when I heard the story about the British? Well, it's not the whole network.
No, it's not because we're Transport for Wales, aren't we? We've got our own.
Yeah, we're already nationalised, which happened last year.
Yeah,
last year before. No. I mean, in terms of there are still private enterprise involved in parts of Network Rail or
it won't be nationalised completely.
Yeah. The operators will still be private, but there was a little part of me looking at it going, is he nicking? And I'm talking about the Johnson now. Is he nicking some of the 2017-2019 Labour manifesto and then putting it out as his own? Because now it just seems to be a brilliant move that he seems to be making. That a lot of the press are saying, "Oh, that's a savvy, that's a great." I haven't used savvy too much, but that's a brilliant move. But 18 months ago, 2 years ago, the same press would have slated.
Oh yeah,
the Labour manifesto for suggesting the same policies.
The more and more this happens, the more and more we need to start asking what is happening with our press, our media, in terms of.
Is it possible? Is it possible? Yeah, is it possible that it's the watch the left hand, the right hand moves, and literally the right hand is moving over to the left? As in, because some of the things that come out, the traditional working class voters are now seemingly more associated to the Tory party, and the Tory party seem to be moving towards left policies.
No, I think it's complete. I completely disagree. I think voters have bought, perhaps rightly, the argument that the Labour Party is a certain class of leftism, which is, identity politics, wokeism, culture wars, that sort of thing. They've bought that narrative that the media put out constantly, all the time, and they have done for the last few years, especially since Corbyn got into power. And they bought it completely, which means when the Tories do something that's left-wing, no one says, oh my God, it's left-wing. They just say, oh, well, the Tories are doing
what they need to do.
Yeah,
but then this is what I'm trying to say.
The Labour Party being sidelined is what I think is
happening. Yeah. But in that process, the Tory party are actually being are flirting with left-wing policies, passing them off as economic brilliant policies, or this is how it fits into the big picture, and selling it in that way and to gain votes. I mean, let's put it this: it is to gain votes in these old red wall constituencies that are now fallen or falling, and they've recognised a position where they only have to stick a couple of these policies out to gain the support in these constituencies for almost perpetual government. So do you think that possibly that everything that's happened in the last few years has turned the Tory party, only in certain aspects, not in everything, obviously, but given them certainly homegrown economics-wise, a more left slant.
If we look at the history of the Conservative Party, there's this aspect of it called one nation conservatism.
Yeah, well,
So,
that's a 10-year-old sort of
Well, no,
phrase
it's-
that came about.
Well, no, it originally came from Benjamin Disraeli and Lord Salisbury in the 1800s, and it was essentially a left-wing slant when left-wingism didn't really exist then. This idea that
Liberalism, I suppose it was.
This idea that in conservatism there is a hierarchical order to society, and you're pulling that face at me like I'm going to go on forever.
Yeah,
There's a
I'm sure the
hierarch-
listeners will love this, but go on.
There's
In a paragraph.
There's a hierarchical order to society, and the job of those at the top of the hierarchy is to help out the ones at the bottom. That's one nation conservatism.
Yes.
Right? So this is what they think they're doing. The membership, the cohort of the Tory party think they're doing. They are making it easier for the bottom of society to work their
Help
ways-
themselves.
Yeah, help themselves. And it's
Yeah.
all part of this, nonsense narrative that trickle down. It all forms part of that same nonsense of trickle down economics, meritocracy,
Yeah.
all of that sort of stuff, and it's nonsense. And so that's where I think this is coming from.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see as time goes on. It might be a tactical thing, or it might be a genuine sort of move that they are going to put more left wing style policies,
Which is fine.
Which
but
is
what
fine.
do we do as a party?
As a party. Well, I hate to say it, and I think we're seeing it, is that then the Labour Party are now borrowing ideas from the right. And certainly law and order seems to be one. Home office issue seems to be one.
Yeah.
Reluctantly, but foreign policy seems to be going that way as well.
Well, I go back to what I said in the election review podcast, where it was basically, it is the job of the opposition to represent those who oppose the decisions of the government, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
And Labour have not been doing that. There are bills that have gone through Parliament, covert terror, all of those kind of
Which they've
dodgy
abstained
bills,
on.
Which they've abstained on.
Yeah.
They might do this with the railway bill as well, and they shouldn't, because there are aspects of it which are awful in terms of like how it works as a law and as a series of regulations which should be scrutinised. Labour need to get to grips with what their role actually is now, which is to be picky, scrutinise and ensure that if the Tories are going to go left wing, they go left wing in the right way, and that's okay to do that. We're not losing anything by doing that.
No, I mean,
In this media climate, we will, but
Yeah.
so what?
means to an end
way.
because people in general are winning, if
Yeah.
that's the case. But
Mhm.
okay, very interesting. So, talking about the current Labour Party, we've got a by-election coming up
Yeah.
in Bately and Spen,
Yes.
which is West Yorkshire,
Yes.
somewhere about there. I'm not too sure where it is, to be
It's
honest.
West Yorkshire, I think.
I've just said that. I don't.
The
Anyway,
previous MP is now Mayor of West Yorkshire. That's why a by-election happened.
oh, is that the reason?
Yeah.
Ah, right. I was wondering because I couldn't figure out who'd gone. Anyway, so the Labour candidate is Kim Ledbetter.
Yes.
Ledbetter? Yeah, Ledbetter.
Better than my pronunciation.
Yeah,
which is Leadbeater.
Yeah, you
which I
said
thought
that
was a bit-
before, and
a
I'm sure,
bit
I'm
mean.
sure it's Ledbetter.
Yeah.
Kim Ledbetter, who is
the
the
sister of Joe Cox.
the late MP Joe Cox. Now, I'm not wholly against this because it was the membership in
Open
the
selection.
open selection in that constituency Labour Party who picked Kim. I have heard some grumblings against such a selection, but from certain parts of the party, as you would expect, one child doesn't get it, the other child starts screaming, But I have to say to people of that type who are complaining slightly, I have no problems with it. It was a fair selection through a selection process. The members of that CLP selected Kim. There should be no arguments there.
No, I don't think there should. I mean, there's always unease when, whatever the circumstances, including awful circumstances, there's always a bit of unease when a relative gets involved in politics.
Yes.
But she's her own person.
Yeah.
She seems to have a good background regardless of her involvement, regardless of everything that's
Yeah.
happened. And let's go for it and keep that constituency.
Yeah,
I think it was Labour before. I don't think it's ours to lose.
Do you know?
again,
Do you know? Is it one of those? Oh god!
Well, they all are now. That's what we need to. That's how we need to think of it. We are not to be dramatic like I was previously, but we're fighting for our lives in England. That's what we need to do. That's how we need to treat it. And
And do you think it's because of lack of policies from the top, or lack of direction?
Definitely lack of policies.
Yeah, because I think this is a criticism that's not just from one specific part of the party. It's from the two biggest part of the parties, to be fair, and both sides are sort of saying there needs to be a bit more direction from the top. There needs to be something that's what somewhere to pin the flag on, and then that's where our standard is.
Put it this way, as an officer in the Labour Party, I don't get much from National Labour. I get an email every single week from the Welsh Labour Party.
Really?
Yeah, that's the difference.
So Welsh Labour give you
sometimes
heads up about things.
Sometimes they're full of nothing, just
but they're keeping in contact.
But they're just sending these out all the time, and that's something. I mean, maybe National Labour do to some officers. I don't know, but I'm a chair of CLP,
so you should be getting from
something.
National office.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe a communication issue. If there's anyone
I
out
get
there,
nasty emails from the General Secretary every so often, but that's
that's everyone now.
Yeah,
I mean that's it.
Don't talk about this.
That's his job now, basically. Don't talk about things you need to talk about. Talk about things you don't need to talk about.
Yeah.
And talk about things that are irrelevant. Or I don't know. That sort of moves me on to the next subject.
Oh, is that how you're going to transition?
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah. I think keep it on the whole thing of international politics.
I sent a message to Dav before, and I said, my hatred of you is only equalled by my admiration.
That's only because of my use of the thumbs up on Messenger.
Yeah,
this is another thing that's going on at the moment, and without joking, definitely aside, the Middle East. And in specifically the goings on in Israel. Now, I understand there is a ceasefire, which is brilliant, but I think a lot of people need to remember it doesn't matter what your viewpoints are, on which side of the fence you seem to be falling, because it doesn't matter what if you air a view on this subject, I guarantee you there'll be a dozen or more people on the other side calling you and calling you all sorts of names from the other side to say how a horrible person you are to dare take that viewpoint. And I've said to you before, let's just get the bigger picture on this, where people are dying, kids are dying, innocent people are dying. It is not fair on those people for them to be subject, regardless either side, whoever's getting hurt, whoever's getting injured or killed, and there's a lot, it's not, and no side's innocent on this, that it must be remembered that it's those innocent people, their lives need protecting first. And regardless of any of the politics or anything that comes on top of that. But that's as far as I can possibly be willing to comment. Because, unfortunately, if I do comment any further than that, I will have those people saying from either side, what an awful person I am for commenting in such a way or having that opinion. When really, I don't really have much of an opinion because I don't know enough or understand the situation enough. I have a fair understanding of it, but not an expert understanding. And certainly not enough of an expert understanding to criticise any side.
Oh, I mean, I don't have an expert understanding. I've been reading about it and trying to learn about it for the last, since I started thinking about politics and international politics. And I am uneasy about talking about it.
Yes.
Despite knowing quite a lot about it, I still think,
because
where do you start?
Because it is such a minefield, and especially when you have people who have not expert knowledge, but a greater knowledge to one specific point of view.
Yeah, I think that's as a topic, that is
because
I side of it which
I only say that because
unique
because these people then come back at you with very, very emotive reasons why you're wrong
Yeah.
and why you're a horrible person. And you just sort of think, no, I'm just trying to understand it. And this seems to be the appearance of what I see or what I hear. And then you'll get someone... it's a difficult subject. And given my joke into this sort of segue into this subject, it's not helpful that we can't talk about it, the broader subject more openly.
No.
And it's very difficult when there is a minefield there, and you do want to learn a little bit more and have a better understanding, that you're having to mess around with having to have a better understanding rather than helping to try and make sure that another child doesn't die, or add political pressure to try and move the wheels forward so this conflict does come to an end, at least the conflict part of it, and have these people sit round a table and actually discuss and talk and compromise and come up with a solution.
Every single conflict ends with talking.
Yes.
Always.
Now, with regards, and I have heard this argument said from one point of view, that 20-something or so years ago, there was a solution and there was a compromise, and I think it was in Bill Clinton's administration that there was a real chance, and then it all blew apart, and one side blames the other and the other side blames the other for the falling apart, and that was the closest it ever got. But to say that it'll never get to a position where they can sit around a table again is it's unthinkable.
If we talk about Northern Ireland, and I'm not comparing Israel and Palestine to Northern Ireland, except in the sense of it's two or several groups which need to eventually talk to each other. Northern Ireland is at peace, but it's an uneasy peace.
Yeah.
And many types of peace across the world are uneasy. It's through constant compromise, conversation, talking. There's an increasing pressure of something which involves Northern Ireland, Brexit. Again, Brexit comes up, in the podcast. Which increases the pressure and means everyone involved has to talk more and has to compromise more and has to think more and has to be more and more devoted to the idea of peace. The region needs a sort of doctrine of peace. It needs a sort of ultimate aim, that is what we have to get. And Northern Ireland does that with a lot of compromise and a lot of work, and there's plenty of other regions in the world which exist in that state. I'm thinking of Pakistan and India, and other places. And you can get into the origins of it all.
Yeah, well, interesting sort of what's the common denominator about these all of these areas.
I'm not willing to say that.
Very interesting historical common denominators. Anywho, I don't think there's much that we can possibly say about the subject, because it's a long it's 100 years now, and it's not going to end anytime soon, and that's horrible to say, because I can't see this conflict ending soon, and but I just hope that it moves from a position of actual conflict to political conflict, and possibly I don't know how they're going to resolve it. I really don't.
Yeah.
But then that's it. I know everyone who's listening to this is saying that that's a bit of a weak opinion on things, but really I don't feel comfortable talking any more about this. I don't know about you.
The reality is that the Secretary of State for the United States has gone now to Jerusalem and is speaking to various different people. We'll see what comes out of that. There is a certain shift in our politics, but also a worrying polarisation, like domestically. And, there are silly views on both sides, and awful views and nasty views, and victimisation, victimising groups which have got nothing to do with the conflict, regardless of their background, regardless of their ethnic or cultural or religious origins. And, it really is a conflict you can talk about without mentioning those things. It really is. I mean, there's scholars throughout history who There's a few who say it relates to the religions involved and the cultures involved, but there's many more who say it's got nothing to do with that. It's land, economics, military history. It's and land and property. Sorry, and that's it. You know, the sprinkling of culture on top. Again, and this is my viewpoint, which I know some will find offensive, but because of the various views of different organisations involved in the conflict, but inherently, this can be resolved through discussion and compromise. It can,
you'd hope.
like everything else.
Yeah,
well,
you'd hope.
Well,
you'd hope.
Northern Ireland was split by religion, apparently, until it wasn't. You know, Scotland was split by religion until it wasn't.
And
you know, all these countries.
But there's still splits there.
Mm.
It just moved. It just evolved into something else.
Yes, but that's what peace is.
Well,
it's trying to move it to something else rather than fighting.
Until you get a Rangers versus Celtic match.
I think that's a good way to let out some tension.
Well, yeah, well, okay. Gladiatorial, almost.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to move on from that because I think that's enough for what we need to say. We do welcome your comments, and we do welcome any emails to...
don't be mean.
labourpod@gmail.com. And as you say, don't be mean, because this is a very, very, very complicated subject that is not going to be resolved by just a one paragraph comment at us because we don't, because you don't, maybe because you disagree with us for whatever reason, but understand that we are trying to understand it and talk about it.
Yeah,
we're trying to talk about it, maybe in a more productive way than what I've previously heard in other places.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, moving on. Other news stories is Belarus.
Oh God!
What the hell's happening there?
That's still a very developing issue, isn't it?
I mean, as of today, so this is so you'll be hearing this tomorrow on Wednesday. So today, what I can't pronounce the name. What's the Belarus prime minister? Prime minister, is it? Litvinenko.
Might be. Yeah.
I can't pronounce it.
It's something like that. Yeah.
So it forced a plane down, Ryanair plane, into Minsk.
Yeah.
Because of a blogger, or an opposition blogger who organises protests against the Belarusian government, was on that flight, so they diverted it into Belarus and then brought the plane down. Well, not brought it down, but forced it down by air fighters.
Yeah.
And then arrested the blogger.
Yeah.
Possibly beat him up, depending on the video you saw this morning with the bruises on his forehead. And where he's then admitted to all crimes suddenly.
Yeah.
On a video. That's been sent out. Yeah, that doesn't sound...
He could be executed as well.
Yes.
The one country in Europe that still has a death penalty.
Yes. There was I was watching on the news earlier on that the opposition leader to the government, which I don't know how much opposition there can be there, possibly more than this country, I don't know, but the
oh, you teased, Dav.
he was saying that there's actually about 400 plus political prisoners in Belarus.
It's quite a right-wing nasty place.
And there's potentially, he said, they could all be sentenced for execution.
Yeah.
Are we still in the dark ages in this on this continent?
Well, no, because they're the only one left. I mean, I don't think one of the advantages of being part of the European Convention of Human Rights is that you're not allowed to execute people.
Yes, but what has the Convention of European Human Rights done for us?
Oh, you just want to give me an aneurysm, don't you?
Did you ever see that Patrick Stewart video on the
Yes, I
European?
have. It's fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
But so obviously Belarus haven't signed up to that.
I don't think so. It's one.
It doesn't sound as though
it's one of the protocols, so I think it might be an opt-in, which has to be opted in eventually, and they may not.
Yeah, there's
I don't want to speak and say they're not when they are.
Yeah,
but
and there's talk of financial.
They've already been excluded from various European.
Yeah, because I didn't realise that the Belarusian government trade on the London Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
like massively.
Mm.
They fund a lot of their public
Lots
services.
of Eastern European governments do.
Wow. But, wow. Okay. There you go. Communism. Yes.
Yeah. Well, extreme right-wing post-communists.
Yeah. They went from... They just went straight through barometers scale, straight to the other side, and
It's a horseshoe, not a line.
yeah. Well, yeah. Complete circle.
Yeah.
Depends which side they popped out on. I dread to predict what's going to happen here, but I think there has to be a few more sanctions against Belarus at the moment than what's happening. I know there's a few financial penalties and they suspending.
A lot more pressure can be put onto it
Yeah.
because of the European Union aspect of things.
Yeah, just because some blogger with a video camera makes a couple of banners and a couple hundred people start protesting. Well, as much as the right to protest and for it to be declared as an inconvenience in this country has been legislated against, at least the Tories do allow protest. They do allow it.
For now.
Well, yeah, but they ignore it. They completely ignore it, and the BBC are instructed to ignore such things. But at least it's allowed to happen to an extent.
Yeah.
Unless there's COVID rules, then there's then they pick and choose which ones you can protest.
Oh, you really are appealing to both sides today, aren't you?
I'm appealing to my side. It's not both. See, I don't like that idea.
No, I'm only joking.
I don't like that
it's not
idea.
that.
There's both sides. I have my views.
Mm.
Some more left than others. Some might be considered right. I consider them all correct.
There we go.
Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
It really is a new, brand new story that's happening.
It is. I mean, it's literally happening at the moment as the time we're recording. It's very interesting. It's a little bit James Bondish, which I think is why it's slightly fascinating. That there's this state that still feels that it's in the Cold War.
Well, it's a useful reminder that even when you hear nasty things happening abroad, that abroad can be quite close by.
Yes, because that's not that far at all.
No.
Anywho, I think lastly, before we go away, speaking of civil disorders, Swansea.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Riots in Swansea. I couldn't believe when I saw the pictures and videos of...
It feels like the ones in 2011?
Which ones were they? The student riots?
Yeah.
For the student fees?
No, it was the one following the shooting.
That was 20... Hang on, student riots were 2010. Those riots were 2011.
Doesn't matter.
It was 2011.
The ones
Yeah,
I'm
it
on
was.
about where it was in different.
Because I went down there.
across the country.
I was there at the time.
Right.
I was in London. Well, there was 8 days of rioting, and then I went down there because I was there anyway. Arrived in Euston Station, made my way across town. Massive amount of riot vehicles buzzing backwards and forwards, and then by that night it all calmed down and stopped. And as I told someone in the pub, well, they must have known I was in town.
That's it.
Possibly.
Absolutely.
But
were you in Swansea at any time recently?
No, but I think I should go down there.
Yeah, maybe. Sort it out.
But then
we don't know why it's happened.
Well, there's some theories about a kid who passed away.
Funeral.
And then it's all escalated from something that happened there. That seems to be the story that's been put out. But generally, I mean, how angry must an area be, or a group of people must be to damage your own community like that?
Well, it's you see it quite a lot in different places where there's high levels of unrest, and why, if these places aren't looked after properly or there isn't enough money to look after these places, why would they care about it?
Yeah, but they were literally burning their neighbours' cars, pushing them down the hillside, so they were playing like a weird game of temping bowling with them, with flaming cars, and then stoning everyone who was coming past them. I mean, there were stories of mothers in the houses at siege with their kids getting stones thrown through the windows and
Well, I must say that's quite unique and quite terrifying.
Yeah.
And, I mean...
Do you think...
If it weren't following a year-long lockdown/pandemic,
yeah,
I would be more surprised. But it seems like this kind of weird, erratic behaviour we're going to see more and more often.
What, as some sort of release?
Maybe.
10
minutes of hate.
2 minutes of hate.
Oh, was it 2 minutes of hate?
It was 2 minutes of hate.
See, that's how I need 10 minutes of hate.
Oh, I had 90 minutes of hate on Sunday, I'll tell you that.
Oh, God.
5-0! Sorry if I just blew your ear. 5-0! God. Anywho, I'm gonna have to edit
Everyone downstairs
that.
is going to be like, Dav's watched it again. Why has he done that to himself?
Oh, God. What a... Oh,
Did Swansea have a bad football loss or something? Or is there anything to explain it?
they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So they could
Maybe
actually...
it's just stress, tension.
They could be back in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, like most Everton fans says, if Swansea do win the playoffs, then Everton will be guaranteed European football next season.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll travel to Wales.
Fair enough. Well, that's nice.
Shut up, Leeds fan. Yeah. So bit odd. Someone was saying, made the point about the riots in Swansea. Is it because liberal views in the Home Office has forced a generation of kids to be unruly? I know you're looking as though you're squinting there as though it's what the hell.
What policies in the Home Office?
As in, over the years, a succession of more left-leaning or ideologies where there's, the capital punishment's gone. That was the first to go. Then the whole idea of you can't smack your kids, or the discipline in the schools.
Oh, corporal punishment.
And then corporal punishment, and then the behaviour of the police to the general public, whereas... anecdotal evidence of years gone by is where...
Well, that's always useful, anecdotal evidence.
But you wouldn't believe how much policy's developed on that. No. In terms of, back in the day, the police officer would give you a clip around the ear and send you on your way, when actually it meant they pretty much kicked your backside and then sent you on your way, which they obviously don't do anymore because of police brutality and blah-de-blah situations that we've had over the years. Should those policies be reintroduced?
Well, capital punishment is that has no effect on crime rates.
No.
Anywhere it exists.
No, I'd agree with that.
The one example where people try to prove that capital punishment does help with crime rates is Japan. And what you forget in Japan is that there's a huge amount of pressure from prosecutions. There's a high prosecution rate, high conviction rate. If you get caught doing a crime, you're going to be convicted. There's all sorts of factors involved in criminal justice and why people are unruly. Schooling obviously is a huge factor. It's just... What a huge topic.
Yeah, but what? I mean, this is the thing. There's a.
Is your point? Are we being too soft?
There is a point that
participation medals and that kind of thing, or is it?
I couldn't give two.
Yeah, because that
about participation medals or any that just irates people that shouldn't.
We still win a huge number of gold medals compared to our population, and in terms of sport and stuff.
All of them chocolate ones.
Yeah,
but there's the idea that when in years gone by you had a bit more of a disciplined society, possibly from national service. I think it's that idea from national service days where I think you've said this to me in the past. There was a period of time where unruly young men who, after they're leaving school and not really settling down for a career, there's a little bit in between where, it used to be they sow their wild oats or some stupid phrase that would excuse them for what they do, left society for 3 or 4 years to national service, then came out as a well turned out man.
I don't think I would have said that to you.
No, you made the point that
was the idea.
That was the idea. Yeah.
Mm.
Is there a argument that for people who don't go into full time education or employment after they leave school, and if they find themselves
you're going to make
terrorising
me bring my Quaker card out again?
Okay, pull your Quaker card out then. You a Quaker?
you shouldn't compel anyone to serve in the military ever.
But not necessarily military.
It may be one or the same in the end. The problem is that if you set up like national service,
All right,
you're serving your nation.
Okay, what about National Education Reforming Service, or within the part of the education system rather than the Home Office?
Well, we force children to go into education and training up until they're 18 now. That's, they have to be in some form of educational training up until they're 18.
Yes.
So that's a step towards doing that.
But what I'm saying is that there are a lot of people who say that for that period of time, from about 18 to 22, 23...
After that, yeah, okay.
That there is a period of time where certain people don't know what to do. Christ, I'm in my 30s and I still don't know what I'm doing, but...
Who's going to serve my coffee in Costa? Or my pint?
Wow.
No, but seriously. No, because this form...
Wow.
It's not... I'm not making the argument you think I'm making. The argument I'm making is we want a young workforce to do shit jobs. That's what our service-based economy, which it is now, wants.
Yeah, but then we shouldn't rely on young people to
no, of course we
fill
shouldn't.
Those jobs.
Of course we shouldn't, but we do because the law sets out that we can pay them less. The law sets out that their benefit rights are less. The law sets out that their housing rights are less. They are at a huge disadvantage in almost every sense of the economy and social security. Anyone under 25 gets paid less benefits than anyone over 25. Means tested benefits. They can get paid less, their minimum wage is less. It's not the national living wage when you're under 25, even though there are loads of kids now.
So are you saying that these people are justified in rioting?
No.
The under 25s, is it justification that they tear open their communities because...
No, despite your skillful whataboutery, what I'm saying is not that people should be allowed to riot and pillage when there's no social cohesion.
Pillage, I like that word.
Well, it's the word that people will soon resort to when there's no other solutions other than we need to put more money into and more regulatory protections into the young in our country. We've spoken about the crisis in hospitality at the moment.
Yes.
Which is essentially people don't want to be paid crap for a job that's actually quite difficult.
And long hours, and antisocial hours.
Antisocial, yeah. So maybe we shouldn't resort to some form of national conscription, even if it's in peaceful circumstances, when we could actually make the situation fairer for young people first.
Okay, maybe not a national service type where it's compulsory, but what about a court-ordered program? So where a individual is someone a judge may see as someone who needs a bit of social training.
If you talk about reforming the prison system and the probation system into one that's rehabilitative rather than punitive, absolutely.
Well, what I'm saying is at that age, there is an argument that those people can't be rehabilitated because there's nothing to rehabilitate. They didn't come from a position of peace and tranquility. They've always been in this turmoil. Now they're old and strong enough.
But it's still termed as rehabilitation. It's still the same process. It's about making sure that when they leave prison or when they go from the justice system,
before they reach prison is the ideal.
Absolutely. Well, no, you don't. Well, there's a great story in a book by The Secret Barrister, and it's like stories.
Never heard of him.
Stories from or her.
Ooh.
And essentially, he talks about, or she talks about how the justice system.
It is.
Well, there's a story of when a young chap is before a free magistrates, right?
Yeah.
They're talking about how he's close to being drawn into that criminal world. He's got criminal friends and all this sort of stuff. Can we set up a scheme where, can we put him into a youth offending scheme where he gets trained up, he gets sorted, all this sort of stuff? The kid's on board, his probation officer's on board, his parents are on board, and then the magistrates are on board. They're like, shall we do it? Let's do it. Yeah, okay. They all go into the conference with their legal advisor, who is the person who advises them on the law. That all happens. They come back out, sentence him to 6 months in prison.
All right.
Because of whatever was discussed behind those doors. There is a serious problem in the way our legislation is drawn up for young people and the criminal justice system and how they're treated when it comes to when when they're on a path to that kind of destruction and pillaging attitude, and they could be brought back, and they're not. The system fails them because we have a punitive outcome when it comes to justice, and we also don't treat young people fairly across the board. No. I'll keep restating that point. I think, economically we treat them awfully, but how can you justify teaching people, paying people under 25 less than people over 25?
I know what the argument is.
I know what some arguments are, and I agree with some of them in certain industries.
Yeah,
and go on.
It's the experience thing.
Yes, of course.
And that's always the excuse.
Yeah, but pay people over 25 more based on their experience.
And this is the thing, and then you'll get businesses going, bankrupt and won't be able to have to lay.
That's capitalism. Don't have a capitalist system
then. Yeah. But then,
full stop. End of podcast.
Yeah, well, no, because the argument against that is don't have a minimum wage system. To have, if you're going to go full capitalism, then have a free market economy where even people's wages are in the free market,
and then they become wage slaves. So arguably, they already are.
Yeah, see, minimum wage has actually, for me, I think, has made it worse to a degree. Because there is now a minimum level, instead of employers paying based on their needs, so shortage of workers, so they pay a little bit more, or it's more of an experienced job, therefore they pay a bit more. Now they hold it to minimum wage. They actually sort of it's not the basic minimum. They treat it as the basic maximum as well. And I think that's...
you can't complain. We're paying you the minimum.
No,
That's kind of our attitude, yeah. If we had universal basic income, we wouldn't need a minimum wage.
Which we will discuss again some point.
I think that'll be a good subject.
Yeah, I think we should. Right then, I think that's done for this week's episode of the Two Left Feet, the unofficial Labour Party podcast. Thank you, Councillor Jabez Oakes, for your contributions this week. As always, much appreciated.
Bye.
We're not saying bye yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying that.
I'll say a bit more then.
No, because I think the last couple of weeks we sort of drifted in between political histories and a couple of watch-alongs. I think this is the first, and election stuff. I think this is the first time we've actually had a chance to go back and talk about topics, rather than a lot of things that are going on within the party. If you did like this episode and agreed with what I said and disagreed with what Jay said, then you can let us know by getting in touch. Email is labourpod@gmail.com. You can contact us on Twitter and Facebook, which is @LabourPod. You can find us on pretty much every podcast platform apart from iTunes or iPodcast or whatever blood things they call them. Yes, and if there's any person out there who was on an iGuru from Apple, do get in touch.
Tim Cook,
yeah,
you listen.
Any one of you, just give us a hand, please.
I don't even know if he's there anymore.
I don't. It's just horrible. Anyway, so like, share, subscribe, and comment. Again, a little bit of social media whore because we have to, and because it's just the thing to do these days, isn't it?
Engagement.
Yes, listener engagement. So then, from the loving litigator... Oh, no, you don't like me saying that anymore, do you?
It's not true.
The man who can, your friendly local neighbourhood councillor. Say goodbye, Councillor Jabez Oakes.
Bye.
And it's a goodbye from me, and we'll see you next week on the Two Left Feet, the unofficial Labour Party podcast. Thank you, and goodbye.
those chicks are dragging my style. They're trying to carve my swagger.
I'm glad I got that recorded.